Yes, I am Russian because, I call myself Russian because I am from Russia. I was born in Moscow. I lived in Russia all the way until 2015. Then I left Russia, not war-related anything, just mostly education-related. And then, once again, the war started. I have a family on both sides. I have families both in Ukraine and in Russia. For this reason, I was talking to them primarily, first of all, with my Ukrainian relatives and friends, because they were directly affected. There were bombs falling in their backyards. There were missiles flying by, drones buzzing above their head. So obviously, they were the ones first for me to be concerned about. And long story short, this is simply from my perspective and from the perspective of a lot of people in the West, also in Russia. We just don't like to speak about it out loud, but a lot of people know it. This is plain and simple invasion. Russia crossed the border of another country, internationally recognized border. The majority of fighting, besides maybe Kursk and Kherson, is happening on the territory of Ukraine. So there is no liberation. The fight is happening on the territory of Ukraine, once again, internationally recognized border inside the country. For this reason, it's hard to stay passive in this case, especially once again having a family from both sides, as do a lot of Russian people. They do have also families both in Russia and Ukraine. This happened after the Soviet Union collapsed, and literally what happened with my uncle, he just met Ukrainian woman, he stayed there, the Soviet Union collapsed, and he's like, okay, well, I live in Ukraine, I'm just going to stay here. It was not like his choice to immigrate or anything. He just stayed there because he was living there. It used to be one country. Same stuff happened with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Russians. A lot of us have friends and families. And that's it. Just by listening stories, listening to Russian propaganda on TV, state channel, Первый канал, TV channel number 1, it is extremely hard to believe what Russian propaganda says. You just see the facts. Once again, plain and simple. Crossing the internationally recognized borders, fighting 90% is happening on the territory of Ukraine. Ukraine is defending itself. So let's say, if the war ends because Ukraine loses, they lose territory, they lose people, they just lose sovereignty. But in case Russia decides to stop war, they kind of don't lose anything. The territory that they took, the newly occupied territories, they just took them. This was not a part of Russia 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago. This is Ukrainian territories. For this reason, once again, I'm just calling myself the Russian dude because I'm from Russia, but being heavily leaning towards pro-Ukrainian side. And that's pretty much the story of me making videos on YouTube for pretty much since literally day one, getting close to 100 million views total, 1,500 views uploaded. So that's me. That's my story.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. And just to be clear for our audience, so there's no confusion here, I don't invite guests on to have arguments with them or try to talk them out of anything. We have guests on both sides. We've had them on the Russian side. We've had them on the Ukraine side so that their voice gets out there. You can make your own decisions about what you believe or what you don't, but we want to give everybody a fair hearing, and that's what we're doing here today also. Let's look at the situation that we have before us right here, the breaking news that happened earlier today, where President Trump had an impromptu press conference with Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO, in the White House today, where he had been teasing already that he had a big announcement to make. And when it finally came, here's how he put it.
We are very unhappy, I am, with Russia, but we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. And that's the way it is. It can be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it.
So what was the I'll start with you personally, first of all, because Trump has really frustrated a lot on the Ukraine side from the beginning, because he, unlike President Biden, whose predecessor, who was all in on the war for Ukraine, Trump was kind of aloof, and it sometimes actually sounded like he was more on Putin's side than he was on Zelensky's side. So if you could, from the Ukrainian perspective, what did you guys think from the time he was inaugurated until, say, before this speech here?
So it's not like I'm maybe giving my perspective from Ukrainian side. It's more about from the Russian opposition type of side, I would say, because still, no matter the war, no matter the consequences, I will still always consider myself, first of all, Russian, because we just have Russians who support war, Russians who are opposing war. I'm pretty much the second category. From this perspective, which is pretty much, I'm assuming, very similar to the perspective of the Ukrainians and pro-Ukrainian people, at least for me personally, this kind of position, this kind of statements that Trump is making right now in the past since he was inaugurated, was pretty much, once again, at least for me personally, expected. Even before he was elected as a president, even before that, 1 year ago, when I was predicting, making videos about that, saying if he becomes a president, this is pretty much exactly what I was thinking is going to happen. He's going to say, I will solve a problem in Ukraine, I will stop the war, 24 hours, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year maybe at some point, but I will do it. And these were just promises. In the end, there were always caveats with some conditions. There was no way, there was no direct, there was no specific timelines, or timelines were very vague and ambiguous. For example, the most recent one, he was giving 50 days. I'm assuming 50 days from the moment he made this statement. Even by the way, he was saying we're going to give 50 days, or we're going to impose 100% tariffs on Russian, pretty much everything, essential exports and blah, blah, trading partners, China, India, I don't know, North Korea, if this counts. Long story short, 50 days from what? From the announcement, from whenever he signs an executive bill, from the moment sanctions are imposed, from the moment when. It just feels like, once again, this just number came out of nowhere, came out of the head. So I don't personally expect anything extraordinary is going to change, anything is going to happen. Yes, the weapons, arms supplies were briefly stopped, then they resumed. Now it's pretty much almost confirmed that more Patriots is on the way. We're going to let European partners buy them, then send them directly to Ukraine. This might happen, because it is quote-unquote much easier to do this rather than stop war in Ukraine. So that's pretty much what I'm exactly assuming is about to happen, if nothing extraordinary happens, if no miracles happens from either Russian or Ukrainian side. If the war is going to continue the way it is right now, most likely this promise of 50 days is going to be just slowly put in the background, some on the bookshelf, forgotten, and just passed away to another Department of Defense or Pentagon. You guys now solve the problem. I'm out for my next decision. It's up to you guys now to decide the problem, to solve the problem.
Yeah, and that's although it's, I guess Zelensky is in a bit of a difficult situation, because he can't say that he's frustrated. He can't say anything about the positive or the negatives about, because obviously Trump has had a lot of deadlines that came and passed without any kind of change. But when he was asked about this earlier today, he actually had a meeting with the U.S. General Kellogg, and here's what he had to say about the decision.
Thank you, General, for participation first time.
Next to me was supposed to be.
We had very good conversation with General just now, and thank you, General, for coming. And thanks, we have often meetings with you and your team. Thanks to your team also for coming to Kyiv. Thank you so much. We are thankful to President Trump for his all messages and very strong decisions about resuming deliveries for us, and we are thankful for bipartisan support. And of course, we had very good conversations in Hague, and we had with President, and we had very good phone conversation. We made some decisions very positive for both countries, and just now we spoke about air defense with General.
So about the air defense, that's the one thing that apparently appears to be concrete that the United States is going to provide, whether it's directly or indirectly through NATO and NATO countries. But one has to ask, what is the expectation of those that are on the pro-Ukraine side of whether it'll make a difference or not, especially given how much of an acceleration the Russian side has had in the air over the last week or 10 days?
So obviously, if we're talking about the Patriot air defense systems, pretty much the most media promoted type of air defense systems, these are just defensive weapons mostly. These are just weapons to protect the skies above Ukraine. I don't think they might change anything offensive related. Ukraine pretty much was on defense since the entire war started. The only 3 times that comes to my mind immediately where Ukraine was offensive, all of them were pretty much successful, was Kharkiv region liberation. Pretty much the entire region was liberated in a matter of weeks. Same thing happened in November later that year. November, whenever Kherson was liberated all the way to the Dnipro River. And then the Kursk incursion in August 2024. All besides these three offensives, Ukraine was just pretty much mainly on defense. Not a single other big part of land was liberated, and that is this type of support that mostly is promised and then given to Ukraine by its partners. Once again, defensive weapons. Majority of what we see, especially recently, are Patriot systems, and that's at least what media is only talk about. Of course, including in the packages, there are some offensive weapons, I don't know, ammunition, rifles, all this kind of stuff. But it's not that much talk as it used to be maybe last year, whenever the majority of the military packages that they were talking about and receiving were consisting of tanks, Abrams, Leopards, or even F-16 planes, which took years for them to first arrive in Ukraine and start flying in the Ukrainian skies. So far, yeah, speaking about this Patriot air defense system, these are mostly defense weapons. I don't think, unfortunately for Ukraine, this will give them any offensive advantage. This will hopefully protect the skies, civilians, residential buildings, apartment blocks, but I think that's going to be most of it, which is also one of the biggest priorities of any leader of any country. At this point, we're talking about Ukraine, so for Zelensky is to protect the lives of civilians, of innocent people, and this is what he's doing.